This is a short video of me making Neapolitan style pizza in the STG style. These are the ingredients. This is the traditional way of making it. I like using this type of flour. First we start off by adding the water and the salt to the bowl. You want to add the yeast later because the salt will kill the yeast. I'll explain later. So I use a 60% hydration. I'm measuring the yeast for later. I usually make the recipe for 1 kilo of flour because that's how it is sold, so it's just a little easier. First, I'll mix the salt into the water. Once the flour is incorporated into the water, I'll add about 10% of the flour. It makes like a slurry, kind of like a pancake batter. This provides a buffer for the yeast. Once that happens, then you could add the yeast, let it mix well, and then little by little, you could just add the flour till all the flour is incorporated. I like to use the Italian flour because it is a soft wheat and I get really good results. This particular flour that I use has a very high protein. I believe it is about 12.5 grams. The W rating, which is the strength, is between 290 and 320. I mix the dough on my particular spiral mixer on 7. It is a good balance because it doesn't heat up too much, but yet it mixes it properly. I will keep on going till it reaches around 75 degrees. That means it'll be properly kneaded and the gluten will be nice and stretched out. It takes about 15 minutes or so. Once that reaches the correct temperature, I will take it out of the mixer and I will just knead it a couple of times. I just kind of like lift it and knead it under. It doesn't have to be too excessive because the mixer really took care of most of it. At this point, I will put the dough ball in a bowl and I'll cover it either with a damp cloth or cling wrap. It's important not to add any olive oil or flour at all. You don't want to alter the hydration level. When mixed properly, it won't stick, as you saw how I was handling it. So like I said, about 2 hours sitting. After 2 hours, I will go ahead and make the dough balls. I usually will cut them up to around 250 or 260 grams. That gives you around a 12-inch pizza. Nothing fancy. I just kind of fold it over on itself a few times, stretching it a little bit. There's many methods of doing this. This just works for me. I'll punch up the bottom, roll it up a little bit, and I will put it in the plastic proofing container to let it rise overnight. I do not refrigerate them. I keep them in my basement, which is around 55 to 60 degrees. That STG style does not call for refrigeration. The refrigeration is good in some recipes, but in this particular one, it slows down the rise too much. If you leave it at that temperature between 55 and 60 degrees, it will ferment and rise properly. Next day, I will prepare my toppings. I like to use the Lavalli DOP San Marzano tomatoes. I'll just crush them up with my hand. I won't use a mixer or an immersion blender. It adds too much air to it. I'll do it like this. I'll kind of feel the hard pieces and I'll take them out with my hands. All I add is a pinch of salt, olive oil, and I throw in some basil, and that's ready to go. Neapolitan pizza does not have cooked sauce on top. It needs to be raw because it will cook when you make the pizza. So you can make a lot of different toppings. This particular one is for the cheese, pepperoni. The mozzarella that you are supposed to use in a Neapolitan pizza traditionally is buffalo mozzarella or fiore di latte. Buffalo mozzarella is hard to come by in my area, so I'll use the fiore di latte, which is just a fresh mozzarella. In the meantime, I will preheat the oven. It takes a good hour to preheat this oven or so because you want to really get the stone on the bottom nice and hot at the right temperature, around 900 degrees. As you can see, the dough rose a little bit, not much. There's only 1 gram of yeast, but that's all you need. When you stretch the dough, you want to be careful not to touch the outside, the crust area. This is semolina flour that I use. It puts like a tiny coating on the dough to prevent it from sticking to anything. You can't really tell that it's on there after you cook it. So yeah, I just stretch it a little bit. Make sure that there's no semolina underneath because it'll burn on the stone. I add my toppings, pecorino romano cheese. This one's going to be a margherita. Just add the toppings, the mozzarella, and then I'll put a swirl of olive oil on top. It's supposed to be backwards 6. I don't know why. I think it's tradition. I use my pizza peel with the holes in it, so that way if there is any extra semolina on the peel, it'll just fall through. So I just kind of fix it up. You could add the basil either before or after. I do it both ways. This time I didn't put it on before I cooked. I will put it on later. So it's important to keep an eye on the pizza. You can't really leave it unattended. The heat on the top balances with the hot stone on the bottom. Just keep checking it. When you turn it, you want to keep it in the same spot, because if you put it in a different spot, the stone will be very hot in that area and it will burn the bottom. So try to keep it in the same spot. That was the margherita. This one is going to be the same thing, but this one will be with the margherita pepperoni. I just like to mix it up with 1 kilo of flour. It usually gives me 6 balls. And I'll just make different ones just to mix it up. Same idea here. Stretch it out, stretch and pull. And when you rotate it a quarter turn each time, it's a little tricky doing that. I'm really not that good at it, but it takes a little time. You just can't be afraid. If you have a good dough, it won't rip. Very similar, put the San Marzano tomatoes, not too much. Try to keep it away from the crust. This one here, I will just add the pepperoni to the top. Don't really need too much oil because the pepperoni will release some oil of its own, but I do like to put it on there. The oil helps the pizza cook on the top. It's not really for flavor, it's mostly to help it cook. It helps it brown. This dough is made specifically for high temperature ovens. Can't really use this flour for a traditional oven in your house. You need around 900 degrees or more. Not too much more, 950 degrees. That one there is 1096. It's up there. It does cook very fast. 60 to 90 seconds is, if you're doing it right, that's how long it should take. It's very tricky. I've burned many pizzas practicing. It takes a while to get the hang of it. It's not easy. It's not as easy as it looks. When you see these professional pizzaiolos, chefs, they make it look so easy. They've been doing it for years. It's a very difficult thing to make Neapolitan pizza the right way. So that's it. This one's done. Makes a nice crust. Puts all the little black dots on it. They call that leoparding. This particular pizza is going to have hot honey. Not really traditional Neapolitan, but I guess you could really make whatever you want. And that's it. I put it on that cooling rack because it makes a lot of condensation on the bottom, and this will help it from getting wet. As you can see, I put the basil on it after. This one is a mortadella with stracciatella and arugula and pistachio. This one is just a calzone. I just got the dough, folded it in half, has some cold cuts in it. I made another one with ricotta and tomato sauce. And this is just a little simple cheese pizza. This one has prosciutto and arugula and mozzarella cheese. This one is ground Italian sausage with mozzarella and truffle oil. This is just another cheese and pepperoni. This is a focaccia bread I made with Italian cold cuts inside. This one is Robbie with garlic and pepperoni and cheese, just to show you what the bottom looks like. Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate that you made it until the end of the video. I hope that you learned some tips if you plan on making some pizza on your own. I took some footnotes from the Neapolitan pizza website. I'll link it in the description below. Here are the footnotes if you feel like reading them. Again, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.